My colleague's name is Mark Lebain. He's a very experienced language teacher. He's been at the university for a long time. He's very digitally literate. He's certainly not a digital immigrant anymore. If he is, he's well until he become a native speaker in that regard. So that sort of detail in terms of doing the assessment, but also explaining to students about how the assessment is done, and part of the peer evaluation process is for them to use these rubrics to provide feedback that's appropriate. Because certainly in our experience here, in terms of students assessing other students, is, to be quite honest, they're ruthless. They are really tough, and they sort of feel there's no difference between a critique and critical. So one of the things we have to do as part of the process to build this community and this active engagement is to make sure that we don't create an environment where students are afraid to participate. And I'm pleased to say that we managed to achieve that. You know, if we haven't videoed the classrooms in action at this point in time, but we have a very, very active and engaging environment. In answering the second part of your question, Jeff, about whether we have an impact on this, I think we'll probably know more the second time we run this process, because we'll have some baseline data to compare it with and to look at the way in which students engage. What we can do in the broader sense is look between the two sets of groups, because we have every single student in first year is doing an English language course, and we have data about them, and they are also using the portfolio system to present various kinds of evidence of their language learning skills and knowledge and ability. And we've also got this second year module, which is done by a smaller group of students, so we can actually look at the differences between the two and see if there's anything significant. But our problem is always going to be the small class size at this point in time.
Are there other questions from other people or any other comments that people want to make?
Nobody's flagged up. Ellen, go for it. And Jan. Hi, Jan.
Alan, do you want to go first, and then we'll have Jan?
Sorry, guys, I had all things turned off so I wouldn't interrupt. Okay, the question is, how do you see the development of ICT literacy for these students, particularly in mobile literacy? What do you think would be the best way to do it? To do with learning and teaching, of course, the thing between novelty and academic.
Yeah, I understand your question entirely. As I said, the students, and this has been borne out in a couple of studies I've done, as soon as they move away from content consuming to content creation and really active engagement, there are some stumbling blocks, and there are some real issues about how they get connected, and you cannot make assumptions that they know how to connect to wireless hotspots. You just can't. And one of the things that has confused the process is that because our wireless hotspots drop in and out occasionally, it's difficult to know whether the problem is the process that you're using or the or in fact the technology that's actually just not allowing you to connect. Because in our university, you have to provide the actual hardware address for any of the devices to connect, and that's really, this monster called security is really causing us problems. We're not actually overrun with people charging around our campus who actually shouldn't be on the campus. So I think it's a very difficult thing, and I think really, and at some levels, the technology is still not clean and not straightforward. And what I'm looking to do is to build an app whereby the connection process is just a click. That app then has that information it can pull off the system and connect directly into the network. And I've had discussions with Apple here in Hong Kong to see if they can actually facilitate that process, because at the moment, if you're going through the settings, you've got all sorts of stuff to do. Now, we've already built an app that connects to our TLC website, and what we'd like to do is take that process and create a single button. And that button hopefully will then allow a student to go here, and if you want to engage here, you click here, and it's one step. And I think we really have to recognize that's the path. Yeah. Chris, it's not just connectivity, it's changing the way the students work. Remember, they've come out of schools where they've spent their life listening and doing exams. Very, very teacher-centered. And then we get them here and we say, well, actually, no, you've got to take more responsibility for your learning, and you have to learn to work in different ways. So I don't expect us to make changes overnight. We need to work with students over a longer period of time to actually change their behavior as part of the culture. And I see that as like a 50-year project, and I'll start the ball rolling and let other people finish it. Yeah, I like your comment.
Okay, Alan, we might Jan have a go now, because Jan had a hand up as well. Jan?
Sure. Jan, do you have a headset microphone? Not a problem, Alan. I can see you, Jan, but I can't hear you.
Actually, Jan, if you want to type your question in, because I don't think, if you are talking, we're not actually hearing anything. And Alan, I wonder if you want to unclick, unless you want to continue to say something.
I wasn't clicked, Jeff. It was released.
I meant your hand. Alan. Is your hand?
Oh, no. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry, mate. Yes.
Okay, and Jan was just wishing to thank you, so that's fine. Okay. Anyone else who'd like to make any comments?
You're welcome, Laura. Stuart?
Okay, David, what we do, if it's okay with you, I might close off now the formal part, and we can stay on for another couple of minutes if people want to, but basically so that Mathew can stop the archiving, and I know people are probably starting to drift out one by one. So I'll just say a formal thank you to you, David. Thank you very much for your time. I think it was a really interesting topic. I think it's obviously a topic we're going to see a lot more on. I agree with you, the comments you made about the infrastructure and about the connection, and it can sometimes get very frustrating when you actually have good pedagogy, and sometimes the sort of technical aspect sometimes get in the way. But all those will be smoothed out. All those things just take a little bit of time to sort out when these new things come along. And as Alan's been making comments about the iPad thing, at the University of Adelaide, the Faculty of Science has agreed to give out iPads to every new student in science in 2011. So that'll be about 1,000 students that we have walking around on campus with an iPad. Well, we're going to be going up to every one of the science academics saying, what can I do on my iPad? So it's actually a very interesting exercise we're going through at the moment, working out what we're going to do on a mass scale with the iPads.
Well, we are proposing something like that as well here, and I've got a proposal in front of the President worth several million Hong Kong dollars to look at that particular issue and probably do a pilot next semester with a bit of luck. And so the information we've gained in this process is extremely useful in going forward. And I think if we don't do these kinds of pilot projects and look at the entire picture, look at it holistically, it's not just the pedagogy. That's incredibly important. It's not just redesigning a curriculum and aligning outcomes with activities and assessment. It's really, it's got to work seamlessly. It's got to be like the fixed telephone. Nobody needs instructions to use one. You just pick it up and use it. And I think the more information we can gather in these processes and give feedback and have discussions with ITSC and our technical people and our administrative people, I think we've got more chances of making it work. But what I saw was really high levels of engagement and real community starting to be built, and even sharing jokes, which is a little bit unusual in Hong Kong classrooms.
Okay, thanks very much for that. And it actually just brings up the point too. I think that, especially people who work in educational development areas, we chip away, we sort of, trying to do things bit by bit, or with individuals, or with the champions, or with the early adopters. But sometimes I think it actually requires someone to come along and do something dramatic, like just say, look, let's give the student an iPad, and let's just get to and do something with it, because that certainly seems to get much more attention than a lot of the stuff we've worked at over the last few years, chipping away at good practice.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it changes it from craft to science, to use a metaphor. And because 20 iPads or iPhones you can ignore. 200, 400, you can't ignore that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, thank you very much, David. And if there's any other comments that people want to make, we'll stay on for a few minutes, but we'll formally close off the session now. And remind people that this will be archived, so if any of your colleagues missed out on this, let them know about it. It'll be on the Transforming Assessment website. You'll also be able to find some other resources up there on aspects of assessment. You'll also be able to see the timetable for the rest of the webinars for this year. And we're working on a timetable for 2011 for our webinar. So if you've got any colleagues, or yourself or any of your colleagues who you think would have something interesting to say in our webinar series, please let us know, because we're starting to book those in for 2011. So thanks very much, everyone.
Bye, everyone, and thank you again for the participation. Such a cute voice.
Okay, David, and again, just to say thank you now that we've formally finished this. I really appreciate your time on this, and it's been really good to focus people's attention on some of these, first of all, the issues, some of the things you can do, some of the things that you do have some problems with, but always it's forward on these things. And I think, unless we get out there and actually try these things, we never actually know the full extent of the issues. Sorry, we never know the full extent of the issues if we don't actually get out there and give it a go.
Yeah, well, that's entirely my process, and if we get the go ahead, we'll run next semester we'll be running a iPhone and an iPad project, and we'll be able to do some cross fertilization, and also it's very interesting. I had a conversation yesterday with Apple and McGraw-Hill publishers, and looking at the ways in which we can use content and have more access to content, because I don't think you're going to change the traditional academic unless you can talk about their favorite content in some useful way or form.